Hi, we are Team 6, made up of myself, Audrey Higgins, Ben Campbell, Brennan Coburn, and Ryan Hutchings. Our presentation today is focused on our Google Ads campaign for Lizzie and Charlie's RV and ATV park. Lizzie and Charlie's RV and ATV park is located in Marysville, Utah, which is central Utah when you're looking at geography. The business itself has been in existence for over 2 decades and is growing every year. It has a lot to offer those in search of adventure in Utah. Due to its location, visitors have access to the Marysville Loop with premier access to both sides of the trail system that will get you to excellent riding in minutes. In addition to the unique location, its other services include RV spaces, tent spaces, campers cabins, miners cabins, the cottage, the bungalow, and ATV rentals. With the amount of services provided, they are able to accommodate for just about any budget. With this information, we looked at the scope of the project and what our goals would be. So looking at the overview of the ad campaign, first, our project was centered around building an ad campaign to attract customers to the Lizzie and Charlie's RV and ATV park website. Second, our specific goals included increasing website traffic and views through clicks and impressions, targeting specific demographics and geography, and finally reaching new customers with relevant ad headlines that would appeal to them. Finally, our project plan included setting up our ad groups, selecting our keywords, including the negative keywords, narrowing down to our targeted demographic, and then setting a budget. We then set up Google Analytics for the website to track those clicks and impressions. And then finally, we ran the ad campaign for 10 days and analyzed our results. We will dive deeper into these results that we received from running our ads and look at the chosen demographics, the keywords and ad groups that performed well, and what our key performance metrics were. And I'm turning the time over to Brennan.
Our ad campaign was unique in first part because we had a Google Ads campaign. Other camping areas within our geographic location do not have an AdWords presence or much of an online ads presence at all. And that really separated our presence to begin with for campers coming to look in the central Utah area. Second of all, we were unique in that we were looking for customers in the age demographic of 35 to 44 that were looking for a combo of things. They were looking for an outdoor/camping experience and didn't have a place to stay, so they would need somewhere to rent, as well as ATV rentals. Our company really wanted to look for a way to target those and have a higher price point per customer acquisition. And that was the strategy they implemented to do that. That's how we got very specific in who we targeted. And that is how we chose who to target.
For our ad campaign, there were a few keywords that really stood out as being the most effective in terms of the highest percentage of clicks. These included RV park, cabin rental, RV campground, and RV camping. These 4 keywords led to our highest percentage of clicks. It was about 68% of the clicks that we received. And the average click-through rate was about 12.76%. Why these were the most effective keywords in terms of getting the most traffic. They were descriptive keywords that searchers specifically wanted. This is something that they were actually looking for. They wanted an RV park, they wanted to rent a cabin. We needed to implement some negative keywords that we didn't have within the first few days of our campaign. So after a few days, we went back in and we're noticing that a lot of the searches we were getting included specific location markers like Lake Havasu or other similar searches where people wanted an RV park, Lake Havasu, and they were searching within our targeted geographic area, but we are not an RV park within Lake Havasu. So we needed to add more of those negative keywords so we could filter out location-specific searches that were not looking for us. We needed to add a bit more descriptors so that we could direct traffic who wanted to be on the Paiute Trail or in central Utah. So doing some editing as we went along, and there's still some room for growth there. It was positive to see that both RV and cabin searches were covered in our top keywords, as those are both main offerings that are provided. Specifically, it was very positive to see cabin rental as our second highest keyword. This is something that is really being targeted as there's a higher margin in the cabin rentals as opposed to just being an RV park. So we were really trying to funnel people who wanted the whole cabin rental experience to the website. So we had some very effective keywords, and that kind of people were looking exactly for what we wanted them to, but there's still room for improvements that we can really hone in on people looking for our geographic location as opposed to other areas surrounding us.
Okay, here we can see the key performance metrics for the campaign, at least during the 10 days in which the campaign was live. The data here represents the paid traffic that went to Lizzie and Charlie's website. Total impressions, about 1,500. We had about 76 total clicks through those 1,500 impressions. Total cost, $227 with an average cost per click of $2.81, which calculates to about $150 for the cost per 1,000 impressions, which I think is pretty average. We would like to increase that click rate though, and see what we can do to improve that to get more people to the site. As you can see, our bounce rate was pretty high at 79%. Average session duration was less than a minute, and they were less than 2 pages per session. So people weren't really dancing around the site and checking it out. They pretty much just went there for a quick second and went away. One thing to note is that due to the fact that this website does not have an online booking set up yet, we were unable to track that data to see how much extra business the campsite got over these past 10 days. People needed to make a phone call in order to book a site. So that is some data that we do not have, which would be interesting to see, but definitely something that we will mention to them as something to improve this. So a couple of insights. As you saw, we had a pretty high bounce rate, 79%. It showed that those that clicked on our ad didn't really stick around. Probably accidental clicks or noticing that it wasn't quite, or it may not have been as advertised. That's something we'd have to do further research into. However, when you look at our non-bounce sessions, those that actually stuck around, they stuck around for a while. Average session duration ended up being about 4 minutes and 26 seconds. So that means they really played around with the site, really looked at things, did their research, and hopefully that led to a phone call, which led to a booking. So homing in on our top keywords and being more specific with our targeting will hopefully lower the bounce rate and increase our users' time on site, which we ultimately feel will lead to more bookings at least Lizzie and Charlie's RV and ATV campground. Again, suggesting to them that they need that online booking so that we can verify with solid booking data.
All things considered, these were our key takeaways from this Google Ads campaign. First, our click-through rate was approximately 5.41% on those approximately 1,500 impressions. As you can see from this graph, as the campaign progressed and we were able to receive some insights from Google, eliminate some negative keywords that Audrey mentioned, our impressions went down, but our click-through rate went up. So this shows that we were doing a better job of targeting our key audiences. We found it interesting that the highest number of impressions and clicks for each week came on Thursdays, followed by Fridays. I think this makes sense just as people are looking for things to do, possibly that weekend or an upcoming weekend, that they'll search on those days. We saw a lot of traffic at night. The most clicks came from individuals in the age cohorts 45 to 54, 35 to 44, which those two cohorts are typical RV park customers. And then 25 to 34, which was good because that was the cohort we were really trying to target. We also ran some specific analytics to see if families were clicking through on these ads and found the individuals who are married, have children in grade school, or have children in high school had a higher click-through rate than the overall average. So they were all above 6.5% as compared to that 5.41%, which we found interesting. I'm not sure why the younger family cohort didn't have that click-through rate. Women had an overall higher click-through rate than men and also had the higher ratio. We had 40 to 28, with the rest being individuals that Google couldn't identify. And we found that about 50-50 overall traffic came from mobile devices versus desktops, but specific to this campaign, About 82% of clicks came through on mobile devices. So our key recommendations for Lizzie and Charlie's moving forward as they continue to build their online presence and run future campaigns is first to enable conversion tracking. There really needs to be a strong call to action based on that bounce rate. And we need to do this in order to know how successful a campaign is and set up customer acquisition costs. That's the image on the right here, that we're not really sure how high quality these clicks were, especially with the high bounce rate. And once a conversion is set up, so an online booking that they're talking about doing, a specific phone number, maybe an email list, then I think it would be appropriate to raise the daily budget. Those first couple of days, we did hit our max budget for the day. But because the conversion tracking wasn't set up, we didn't feel it was appropriate to raise the budget. Google kept suggesting words that we missed, like razor rentals, things like that. So once the campaign is relaunched, just keep an eye on these insights and decide which ones of these keywords is appropriate. And we found that the campaign was effective with couples and families with school-age children. We're not sure why young families didn't have the same click-through rates, so it might be better to look and figure out what keywords would be appropriate for this cohort. Overall, as this business launches into the digital space more than they ever have before, this will be an important part of their growth as they're located kind of in a rural area, that as this campaign progresses, as they continue to add and set up conversion, that this business can have a lot of success in this space.